you start off the conversation and kind of set it up and frame it, let people know what we're discussing today, why we're discussing it, and we'll dive into what we're hoping they can take away from it.
Absolutely. It will be my pleasure. I just gotta say that we're so happy to have you back. And I just love the dialogue that we have between each other. So yes. We're gonna be talking about, like you were saying, while you're away, you knew that you had a team that was there that was able to rise up to the next level so they can actually fill in, where it was needed. And so we're talking about discovering your next level. Everyone has that potential, I believe, to discover your next level. But I love how you said it, it's discovering your next level 2.0 version of yourself. So we're going to be talking about coming up to the next level, rising to the next level, discovering your next level, and what does your 2.0 version look like for you? It's different for everyone. So that is a very important topic because we're looking at the end of the year. It's very normal for us to want to wrap up the year thinking about how do we want to end this year, reviewing the past year, and then looking ahead for 2024. So everyone has already got their New Year's resolutions that they have that they're thinking about writing. Everyone is thinking about planning their vision boards and so on and so forth. Don't get me wrong, those are great things. So as we're thinking about that, we want to think about also about being a best version of ourselves, the next level of ourselves. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So yes, I'm excited about this topic, digging into that topic. So Coach Rich, I just want you to help someone and just set the tone as far as what are we talking about when we say the next level
All right.
or 2.0 version. Yeah.
Right. This came into my head. Um, a lot of my topics come from real life people, real life situations, and I thought it would be a great idea to talk about the next level, but not just the next level, the 2.0 version of ourselves. And this came into my heart after speaking to a couple of people. I'm constantly coaching people, but I noticed that a lot of people are still operating in their original version. So this is going to be very interactive. I'm going to call some of you folks out because I love you, and I'm going to give you my version. I love when I'm able, and you guys are such good sports about it. But I will be calling a few of you guys out and letting you know what version I think you are. Don't,
Wow.
yeah. So interact with me. I'm going into 2024, God's willing. Just being a little bit more dynamic and honest and very helpful, hopefully, as well. So, to continue answering your question, I know a lot of folks that are out there still operating in their original version of themselves, the 1.0 version, and they're expecting to make it to the 2.0 version, but they're still holding on to the 1.0 version of themselves. Some of us are
Mhm.
still operating the way we've always operated and have yet to convert into the 2.0 version of ourselves. So hopefully by the end of this conversation, we can dive into how do we get to the 2.0. What do you think about that, Lady L?
I don't know. I think I'm stuck on the part that you said you're going to call some people out. So hey, I just want to just have everybody, if you haven't already done so, please share the link. And I know that you are, if you're listening, we have global audience. Thank you for tuning in. Please join us in the chat. We have a lovely moderator, Ronnie, that will greet you and just let us know where you're listening from. But I just want to stop for just a moment to greet our listeners in the chat. And I want to have them, I know they put some hearts in there because they're happy to have you join us. You know, you were out for a while and we're happy to have you back. And we're sending hearts for you, Miss Evelyn. But I want to recognize those who are in the chat. So thank you. Thank you. We got Ronnie. We have Veronica. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, Dave. Dat Cat Dave. He is, if you haven't checked into his fitness show, please tune into his fitness show that he has, of course, Wine Down Wednesdays. You know, he's holding it down and entertaining and keeping us entertained on Wednesdays with Dat Cat Dave. And Hello Music, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for Sheila G. Thank you for joining us. So I know that we're talking about, for those of you who are just joining us, we're talking about discovering your next level 2.0 version of yourself. And so Coach Rich is back in full force. He's going to be telling us how we can move into the next year, 2024, and actually level up. And when he was actually explaining that. So, and he's also going to, give us some insight on how we can do that. So, all right. So with me just making sure everybody's caught up to speed and resetting the room. So we talked about what that is. And so can you just explain to us why that's important for us to do that? Some of us are like, hey, level one is cool. So why? Why is it important for us to level up?
Because the world, some folks out there that are listening still believe that the world is flat. The world is round and it rotates. And it takes gravity to have the world rotate in its atmosphere, in its hemisphere. So the world is still rotating, and some of us are still at the version one of ourselves. As the world is rotating, it's evolving. There's global warming. For those of you that are listening that don't believe that it actually exists, global warming, it does exist. The other part of it is we're transitioning, we're transforming, we're getting older, things are happening, and you know what it took before with the first version of yourself to get through some things no longer will work for the world the way that it is. We had payphones, right? We had pagers, we had beepers, we had all these other ways of communication. We had phone books, right? We had road maps from AAA. We had so many different things, and the world is evolving. But some of us are still operating in the 1.0 version. So sometimes the world forces us to embark on the next level, and we, in a subtle way, we kind of do it because it's forced upon us. But what if you have 10 versions inside of you and you still stuck at the 1.0? So for those of you that are still stuck in the 1.0, it means that, you know what, you're not stopping the progression of life. You're just hindering the evolution of yours. So as long as you are alive, you will continue to grow. You will continue to have birthdays and you will continue to get older. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you would enjoy or embark on the revolution of the life that is for you. It doesn't necessarily mean that you will evolve. Some of us, unfortunately, may leave this world at a 1.0, and there may be 9 other versions that we never got to. And a lot of times we don't get to those versions out of comfort, out of fear. Some of us only been burned by the iron once, and that's all it took. And I'm here to tell you that if you just trust yourself and know that there's so many other versions of yourself, if you would just trust yourself and understand that you're not going to get burned again. What happened in the past, I promise. What happened in the past, I promise you, it already happened. It already happened. So it's not going to repeat itself in the same fashion in the same way. So why are we so fearful of moving forward? Let's start heading towards the 2.0. If you're starting your day the same way, if you're doing the same things and expecting different results, you know what they say about that. So I'm going
Yeah.
to hand it over to you and get your thoughts on it, and then we'll dive in a little deeper.
You are absolutely right. I can't wait until you actually tell me what level I am on. But I think I can answer that. I think I can. But you're absolutely right. I think there is very easy for us to become complacent. And yes, fear does drive us to complacency. And it's comfortable. You get comfortable. There are some of us who are hungry, who are wondering, who are curious. But yes, fear can easily cripple you and keep you captive on staying on just that level. I saw this cartoon animation. It was a printout publication cartoon, and it was basically an image of a stick figure that was kind of like in one room, like in a maze, but there was other parts of that maze for them to enjoy and to venture out, but they stayed trapped. in that one at that part of that room, but all they had to do was to step out and see the other parts of the maze that they could actually grow and go to. So it was funny thinking about that cartoon because it was like, that's where we are. We can get complacent and we can get stuck in that one part of that room in our lives. Just using that as an analogy for our lives. And complacency can drive that. But then you are forced to move out of that because of circumstances that happens in life for you to actually move out of the maze and move into see what's next. What can you do next? And if I could just be honest, a little bit transparent, I had to level up. I had to level up during your absence to just like make sure, hey, things need to be done. We have this station and we have to do some things. And so that's just one example. I could be like, oh, well, I guess, but no, I had to be like, okay, there's things that need to be done. So I think that necessity is one of the main drivers to that. And I think that's good. But what happens when we don't have that as a driving force to help us to level up and to do things that we need to do? So I think you're absolutely right on what you're sharing about staying on the 1.0 version of ourselves. And there is so many other versions of ourselves that are available and accessible to us. So yes, I definitely agree.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of us get stuck at motivation. And I think what happens is society has taught us that motivation is required to move. Not always. Sometimes you just have to move. Sometimes you just have to move in that direction. It's not going to always be motivation. It's not going to always be set up for you to perform. Some of us think that we have to do so many things before we do the other things. You can do things as you go along. And this is what causes us to get stuck in the 1.0 version of yourself. When you look at, for those of you that really know me personally, my background is pretty extensive and my resume is pretty extensive. And for all the achievements that I have, it means that at some point I knew that there were different versions of myself. And I was really, really looking forward to figuring out what that next version of myself was. So, with all these accomplishments and all the things that I'm achieving in my life, it's only because I was really looking forward to what's next for me, what's the next level. And I always knew that if I received and adapted my mindset to that the next level, I will be greeted with discomfort. I will be greeted with some level of uncertainty, but I will survive it and I will get through it. So for every level, I knew there would be a new devil and I knew that I would beat that devil. So for those of you that are out there listening, if you don't embark on the fact that transition sometimes is triumph, transition is sometimes hurt, pain, loss. It's part of it. Listen, if you're afraid of losing something, you're going to lose it anyway, right? You afraid of losing a loved one. You have no control of that. You're afraid of making mistakes. You're afraid of loss. You're afraid of what could happen. It will happen anyway. Wouldn't you like to be on the other side of it happening and you be in more control because you had taken the initiative to level up as opposed to being pushed to the next level and it's out of your control and now you have to follow guidelines that have been set for you because you didn't set your own. I'm talking to somebody out there.
Yes, you are. Definitely. You definitely are. So we talked about what it is. We talked about why it's important. And then so now we need to dig into how we can do that. But I want to ask you, let's talk about the challenges of how we can discover our next level. And so how we can discover our next level with those challenges that we have. We talked about fear, we talked about complacency, we talked about those drivers of needing to have motivation. So, and there's so much that we can unpack right here. So let's talk about how is it that we can move? And I know that it's a case by case basis. Everybody has different motivations or have different situations that will help them or challenge them or prevent them from discovering their next level. So I know that you mentioned about how you was going to call out a couple of people. I don't know if I'm going to be the first guinea pig or not. So,
You're a little nervous about that. I think everybody's nervous about it. Yeah. So here's the thing. There are people out there that are listening that are regulars of the show, and you know that I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. But hey, listen. The truth is the truth. Some of us are stuck in a 1.0 version of ourselves, and some of us are at 2. Some of us are in the 3rd. I don't know what version you are, but by listening and interacting with some of the folks, I can pretty much tell what version that you're in. One of the favorite people I really like. How you doing, Miss Beautiful Freeman? Fantastic Freeman. How you doing? One of my favorites I like to pick on is going to be music, and Ronnie, and of course you, Linda. I'll save you for last. But I want to start with music. When I met music, um, she was probably heading towards her 2.0, and then life happens to her. She was a recording artist, and unfortunately, uh, she lost her son. So she got stuck in her transformation from 1.0 to 2.0 of herself. And then there were some health concerns and things of that nature. And what happens is that those things that happen in our lives, they're like stalemates. They cause us to not want to endure any more pain, any more suffering, any more agony, any more health concerns. So we kind of sit still. And it's toxic to sit still. Anybody that knows someone that doesn't move as much, it's not healthy not to move as much because there are impurities that build up. And what it does, it takes us from a state of having control to move to the state of paralysis. And that's emotionally, and that's physically and psychologically, right? So at some point, she connected with the network, and I began to push her into that element that I know that she wanted to embark on. And then I would say things that were very starking to her, like, you're on borrowed time. Like, we're on borrowed time. If you're 50 years old, you're not halfway, you're most of the way, right? So that's not to be mortal, but it's basically just a reminder that we're on borrowed time. What have you done with it? And you have tried to make it stand still. So what I was telling her is that what is your phase 2? What is the next level? How do you get to it? And I started pushing her to the point where at some point it became uncomfortable. And then at some point she began to be surprised at the progress. And then something snapped. And then she became addicted to pursuing the next level, the next version, till I couldn't turn her down. So I'm using her as an example on this is why coaching, mentorship, or just listening to podcasts and positive energy stuff, something will invoke you to do something that you haven't done. And everyone that has air in their body could do something more. And this, I'm not trying to make you start a business or be a multimillionaire or anything like that. I'm just trying to get you from version 1 to version 2, from whatever level you are to the next level. And if this year looks like last year, then you've done not much at all. So I'm gonna put a plug in it right there. But music is one of because I'm so proud of her. She's now writing music. She's producing. She's doing so many other things, and working on a documentary and some other things that she's doing because she recognized that she had been stuck in her 1.0 version, and now she's heading towards her 2.
awesome. Yes. Thank you for that. And there's something I wanted to bring up a point, while we're talking about this, and that with Coach Rich and I that we're saying this from a motivation of love, always. And so one thing I had to realize is that you see people for who they are. And with you seeing people for who they are, that does not mean that you love them any less. And so that was something that I wanted to make sure that we pause and we make sure that we address in that. Because when you love people, you're able to see areas where they have opportunities for growth. So for those of you who don't know, I come from an HR background. And so I'm always looking at opportunities for growth to my career. And so I say that to say that, you can see someone and you can see them and love them, family, friends, whoever in your life, and you can see them for who they are, and you can see where there are some opportunities for growth or flaws. And you realize is that, no, hey, I'm going to be your accountability person to say, there's opportunities for you to step forward and to move forward and realize that there's so much more that you can experience in your life and that you can have in your life,
Right.
and not to become complacent. So I agree with that. Definitely.
Yeah. So, basically, I remember I was, and we're gonna read the comments in a second. How you doing? Good evening, Bridget. I remember I was born and raised. I'm from the projects, Liberty City, Miami, Florida, and didn't have much. There was this area that we would sit in the projects. It's called the Wall. So historically, that wall was created to separate the the whites from the blacks. And once the segregation and all of that was it evolved, then it became a predominantly uh, black and brown community. And what we would do is we would all sit on this wall, and on that wall is where all the stories appeared. On that wall is where um, we hashed out problems, we learned things from each other, we whatever it is. That wall became a monument for me. So as I got older, I would always go to that wall because that was the check-in place in the morning and at night, and everything took place on the wall. And then I turned to DJ, and I would play music at the wall. And then as I got older and graduated high school and moved on, when I came back to the projects to visit, I would go to the wall. And whenever I went to the wall, I noticed that I was turning into my 2.0, my 3.0, and I would go back to the wall and they were still at their 1.0. And years
Mhm.
later, 10 years later, I would go back and I start to see some of the folks at the wall now with gray hairs, now with canes, now in wheelchairs, still drinking, right? Still doing what they were doing from their 1.0. And every time I go back, there will be someone missing because they had perished either to gun violence or health issues. But every time I went back to the wall, I noticed that they were still at their 1.0. And I'm giving you this example. This is a real life story of mine. Is now that wall is just a memorial, right? Some of us was able to get to the 2.0, and whenever I pass that wall, it just reminds me of all the folks that came up with me through the ranks that never got out of their 1.0, and they have perished and they have moved on, and now they're just a memory, and the legacy is minimum because they stayed in their original version. And I knew there was so much talent. I knew there was so much probability to be so much more. But so many people get stuck in their original version and they're so afraid of what could go wrong that they stay a 1.0. So hopefully by the end of this conversation, something will ignite in you to get to that 2.0. I don't care how old you are, there's at least 10 versions of you inside of you. You need to ask yourself, what version are you right now?
Amen. I totally agree with that. And so I just want to take a moment to acknowledge those people who are in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. Just to reset your room, we're talking about tonight with Coach Rich and I, we're talking about how to discover your next level, that 2.0 version of yourself. So basically what we're saying is that, hey, there are other things that you can evolve and grow into. And we want to help you to discover that tonight. And so Coach Rich is challenging us. He's definitely challenging us, and he's letting us know, how we can get over that. So I just want to recognize, yes, thank you, Bridget, for joining us. Sharon, thank you so much for joining us. Just want to acknowledge you. Please put your questions in the chat if you have any questions or if you have any comments about what we're talking about, how you can go to your next level. And so, yes, I know he's going to call us out. So let's just brace ourselves for it. He's doing it out of love. We're doing this out of love because we want to make sure that we don't want you to stay at 1.0. We want you to go to your next level going into the year 2020 that is available to you. And so please make sure to put your questions and your comments in the chat. And I do see music. I just want to read what you're saying. You're saying, Lady L, I want to thank you so much for encouraging me. And yes, and I know that she's saying, Coach Rich, I appreciate you so much. Thank you. So yes, thank you for sharing that example of how music is one of our listeners and how she has actually evolved and she's evolving. We're all growing and evolving and growing. And so we talked about what it is. We talked about why it's important. And so you're helping us to explain to us how we can get over. How can we discover our next level? How can we embrace that 2.0 version of ourselves? So
that's a really good question, and thank you for resetting the room. The question is, how can you get to that 2.0? How could you get to the next version of yourself? Is one, understand the brain and the mind, and it is cut up into quadrants, and I believe that it functions in different ways, and it's very resilient. And why am I saying that? It's because sometimes our mind tells us to not do things, and our brain is very capable to do them. Our body is far more capable than we can imagine, right? So what happens is we tend to follow the most comfortable thing, the lowest hanging fruit. And what I have done is I have taught myself to tell myself no, to tell myself, my inner self, to be quiet. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to my future. I am talking to my hero. You know who my hero is? It is me. 2 years from now. That's my hero. Right? So when my mind starts telling me that all these things can go wrong and that you shouldn't do this and it's going to require this and that much money and these much resources, your mind starts talking you out of things, and I tell myself to shut up. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Rich Live in 2026, God's willing, I'm here. I'm talking to that guy. I need to meet him and introduce myself to him, because you are the 1.0 version. You're the older version of myself. So sometimes we have to understand that a mindset is really, really, really important when you want to get to the next level. So you have to know when to tell yourself to hush and stop talking yourself out of what you know is right for you. There's something in you that constantly communicates, but there's also something in you that suppresses that communication. Understand the difference. Your brain can handle far more than your mind will allow it to receive. So stop suppressing your brain power. You have it. You're more powerful than you can imagine. Period.
that's very awesome. That's so true. You were sharing about how you grew up and in Florida and the wall. You were talking about that. And whenever I can relate and I think about that 1.0 version of myself, would have still have been in a rural country of Hampton, South Carolina. That's where I'm from. Very rural southern area. The fear could have kept me there, but it does take a strong mind for you to actually say to yourself that there is more for you to experience. And the mind is a very powerful thing, very much so. Fear is the imagination of what could happen. It hasn't happened yet. And so fear will keep you stagnated. And with that is with the mind, having a strong mind. And I have learned over the years to learn how to, like you said, talk to yourself, daily affirmations. And it is saying to fear or saying to those thoughts, no, you're not going to have me captive to this. There is actually something else that I can do. Let me try. So, what I've learned to say to myself, let me just try. Let me just try. Is there any harm in trying? So I totally agree with you and talking to yourself and having that strong mindset and just grounding yourself so that you can actually move forward. So you were also sharing an example with music, and I just want you to move on to your next example, if you don't mind, of letting us know where we are and where we can go and how we can get over and go to the next level.
Next example or next victim? Listen,
Oh, okay. All right.
well, all right. So,
So,
so we'll keep it 100. But I like to use real life examples of people that are tangible, that are here with us, that have evolved. And I'm going to use you for example. I remember when we connected, you were doing something very similar, and you have a decent background in media, and you're very well spoken, and you have history in coaching and things of that nature. And when you told me what your dreams and aspirations were, and that there was something that you saw in your near future, and when I challenged you with it, there was this level of appreciation, but then there was this level of apprehensiveness. And I noticed the apprehensiveness was because of the unknown. The unknown. Sometimes people see in you, and for those that are listening, we're speaking about my co-host, Lady L. Sometimes we see things in you. We can see the diamond. We can see the shine. We could see through what it is that you're suppressing. And a lot of times, folks won't let you know that you're a diamond because we'll use you and not let you know that you're a diamond. So you feel like you're doing us the favor, right? Because we're allowing you to suppress yourself, but meanwhile, you're serving us, right? So
mhm.
that's not what we do here at this network. I see a diamond, I see a jewel, I see a gem. I see it in the listeners. I see it in everyone that's in the chat. I see that there's something special about you, and I try to embark on it. I try to pull that out of you. So when I invited you to the show, you were apprehensive, and then you got here, and then you had a whole lot of questions, and I was like this laid back guy, like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. But ultimately, the fear subsided, and you gave yourself an opportunity and a chance. And I told you within a short period of time, not only will you be on public radio, not only will you be podcasting, but you will also have your own show. And now, look, Lady L's going to have her own show right here on this network on Sundays. So the point I'm trying to make is it's not like this is a dream come true, like I'm making this dream come true. She's taking the initiative and the steps to sharpening herself, and do her own research and tap into that inner core of who she is so that she can do what it is that is a part of her 2.0. And this happened in a very short period of time. So there's some of us out there that does not, we don't even imagine, we cannot even imagine on where we could be if we did something that we typically don't do, if we connected with someone that we typically wouldn't connect with, or we took a chance on what's inside of our head, what's inside of our heart, and move your mind out the way, because sometimes your mind wants to keep you safe by saying, don't hurt yourself. Sometimes you have to talk to yourself and tell yourself, self, I'm not talking to you right now. I'm talking to my future. I'm talking to my dream. I'm speaking to my future opportunity. I need my mind to get out of the way so that my brain and my heart can connect to my passion. So kudos to you for taking the chance, taking the opportunity, trusting something, getting to this point, to the point where you're now covering for the CEO of the organization. So I want to commend you for that.
Wow. when you say it like that, I'm just like, wow, I guess I did. It is the perspective. It is totally about the perspective. And hey, MSC Nation, let me just be real for a moment. If you can identify with what I'm gonna say, please put a one in the chat. And that is, I didn't think it was in me. I did not see that. It took Coach Rich seeing that in me. I was complacent. I was just like, okay, I can do this. And he was right. I was asking him a lot of questions because I've made so many mistakes before. And when you make mistakes, you're feeling like I cannot invest anymore because you when you feel like you have to suffer the consequences of your own actions and you made mistakes, you fell down, and then you'd be like, okay, that cost me something. It cost you something. And so that fear was kind of crippling to me. And I was just like, I don't know. So I was asking him a lot of questions like, okay, how's this going to look like? What are we going to do? Like, what do you need this? And it's like, I was talking myself, like you said, talking myself out of it. But he was just challenging me. Coach Rich was pushing me. He was just like, no, you can go back, but there's a frustration that you can have where it's just like I know that I'm capable of doing something more, and I'm frustrated on the level that I'm on, but I cannot go back to what I was doing before. That's when you know that you're ready to transition. And so you have to ask yourself that question, and you do have to talk to yourself. And I did that. Are you going to go back and regress? Are you going to just stay where you are complacent? Are you going to step out, do a leap of faith, and try something new? So if
Kudos.
that's you, please put a one in the chat because I want to hear from you. So, but thank you, Coach Rich, for saying that
You're
because
welcome.
I could not see that. I honestly could not see that. I was thinking you was being difficult. Like you was just pushing me little bit too hard, So, but
Yeah, you're
now I
welcome.
can see it.
You're welcome. That leads me into my next segment. For those of you out there that believe that it takes money, no, it takes mindset. Mindset over money. And then the other part of it is timing. We try to do things in our own timing. We want to be completely comfortable when we move. We want to be completely aware, educated, motivated, stimulated. We want all the boxes checked. Meanwhile, be competent to understand that you are on borrowed time. And time is the one thing that we do not own. We do not own time. So we need to cherish it and stop delaying your destiny. Because what's for you, there's nothing in this world that can prevent you getting what's for you. The only thing that can prevent you from getting what's for you is you. You're the only thing that can get in the way of your own destiny. So, time is not something that you own. You can take merchandise back, right? You can send food back that's not prepared properly. You cannot take time back. So why waste it? We're heading to 2024. We were all afraid of 2020, right? We didn't know what was going to happen in 2020. Well, guess what? We're in 2024, right? So time is not waiting on you. It owes you absolutely nothing. Shame on you if you're not taking advantage of the time that you have. We're trying to be so perfect before we move. We're trying to have all the pieces of the puzzle before we move. We're trying to be supported and motivated by others before we move or be stimulated to do something. The truth of the matter is, we don't need any of those things. We need the right mindset. We need the right ethics, the right support system, and then the ability to move. Fear is not a reward that you ever received. It's a gift that you gave yourself that was undeserving.
Mm,
That's the one gift that you should return is fear because it does nothing for you. it does nothing for you. So if you're still operating in a 1.0 and you're not doing what your heart tells you to do, and you're not doing what you're supposed to do, and you're not moving in the direction that you're supposed to be moving in, stop blaming other people. Stop making these New Year's resolutions and setting these big goals and these dreams and these visions, and you're finding ways to talk yourself out of what belongs to you. Be a go-getter. Go get it. Be a go-getter. Go get it. It is already destined for you. Don't waste any more time.
Very well said. Very well said. So you basically just broke it down for us about how we can discover our next level. It is a mindset, it is the motivation, and it is the action of moving. And so I want to ask you just a couple of questions here. And so you basically telling us to make that move, and it doesn't require money. You said something very profound there, because a lot of people are thinking, I have to be rich, I have to make this amount of money, or I have to have this type of investment. And it's just basically just moving. So how can we help someone out? Let's help someone out tonight before we wrap the show. If they're realizing we don't need the money and we just need to move, how can we take tally of what to do next? You want us to move, but move where? So I mean, I'm just being keeping it practical to help someone out.
Well, I'm gonna
So
keep it
they
simple.
hear you.
Keep it
Yeah.
simple. Keep it simple. Move forward. Move differently. Move efficiently. Move effectively. Move in the direction of the wind. Most importantly, move with your heart and your soul. The dream that you have and the vision cannot be shared until it's cared for by the person that received it. So stop expecting me or anyone else around you. Stop expecting others to nurture your dream if you haven't taken the time to nurture it for yourself. No one else can make it grow. It's your seed. You're responsible for it. You have to water it. You have to give it sunlight. So how do you move is you move forward. You move differently. You be efficient. Become effective. Be wise. Be mindful of who you climbing a mountain with, because
Mm.
one misstep with the wrong person will put you back at the base. Be careful on where you're going. Not everyone is a passenger. Not everyone is a co-pilot. Like Tyler Perry said, some of us are roots, some of us are branches, some of us are leaves, some of us bear fruit. At some point, the root remains the same, but the leaves may fall off. Know who the leaves are in your life. Know who the fruit bearers are in your life. Understand that branches will fall off. Understand when it's time to prune your life. And for those of you that are still stuck in the 1.0 version, you need to do more pruning than anyone else. Get rid of some of the bad leaves, the bad branches. Get rid of what's not bearing fruit. Stop feeding what don't feed you. Be careful of what you're allowing inside your mind. Be careful what you allow inside your home. Be careful who you start relationships with, business, personal. Be very careful on what you allow in, because we have this thing in technology. Trash in, trash out. Don't let the trash in. Trash is meant to be taken out. Get rid of the trash and believe the original belief and use that to get to your 2.0. One step at a time. Let tomorrow be slightly better than today, and keep doing that. And by the time you get to 100 days, you have 100 accomplishments. I don't care how small they are. Achieve something every day, even if it's waking up 5 minutes earlier. Do it 100 times. Watch the results.
That's awesome. That's very well said. And I'm glad that you said that there's achievements that can happen in small steps. And a victory is a victory, no matter what the size of it is. So thank you for sharing that and to help us with some practical steps. I just wanted to add to that and just say that, take an account, take a tally of your talents and your gifts. Some of y'all, and I can say for myself, I'm not really aware of my talents and my gifts. I really haven't really thought about it because I let someone else's perspective of that cloud my judgment of how I see myself. Coach Rich was just sharing some compliments to me about where I am and how I've done some things. And then if I could be honest, instinctively, I'm like, is he talking about me? I'm like, okay. So that means I gotta work on my mindset. I gotta work on my not saying to be vain or arrogant, but just taking a tally of what can you do? What what do you have? And I'm not talking about possessions. I'm talking about your talents, your abilities. And I know some of you thinking, well, I've gotten older and I don't think I can do those things anymore. But you can do something new. So take inventory of what you can do now that's new and using that to rediscover your dreams because there are some dreams that you are still alive that you can achieve and it's not too late for you to achieve them. So we're helping someone out tonight. So Coach Rich, I just want to thank you so much for this subject. This is so important for us to be able to understand that there is a next level for us. You said something very profound, and I want you to kind of reiterate that. You were saying that there's so many different versions of ourselves. So let's say, for example, I go up to level three, whatever like that. Do I want to stop or do I keep going? When do I stop?
When you lay down and your eyes never open, never stop. Because the life that we have is a gift. And if you are a Christian or you believe in God, it is almost like an insult. They're out of sperm cells. Out of 4 million, one of us are born. Out of 4 million, one of us are born. And to be given an opportunity at life and have your faculties and the mental capacity to do more than the average person, and you're healthy, and you beat the odds of 4 million people, and you quit at 1.0, or you quit at level 3, that's like an insult to life itself. Because we're put here for a purpose. And when we stop serving ourselves and start using our gifts and our talents to serve others and people in the world, that's when we start walking in our purpose. And that's when you get to the version 10, the version 12. When you stop trying to serve yourself and understand that the gifts that were given to you were not for you to keep or hoard, when you share them with the world will lead you to your destiny. And every level of this thing called life has a different version. So if you're still at 1.0, it's okay. Go to the 2.0. But one thing that I do not suggest is that you allow life to live you. Live it. Challenge yourself. If you don't believe that you're more resilient, almost get hit by a car. I've seen people on walkers, homeless people collecting money, or just appears that they can barely walk and someone loses control of a car and they ran. But I believe that whatever it was that allowed them to run was already inside them. Let shots ring out. Watch how quick you move. let something happen or you really need to do something to stay alive, you'll find whatever that thing is inside of you, it will wake up. But don't let life put you in a position where something that serious has to make you wake up. Wake it up on your own. Because if you're waking up on your own, you're in more control of the decisions that are being made as opposed of people making decisions for you. If you can control your life, take it in your hands. The most important thing that we need to remember before the night is over is that we are on borrowed time. We have no control over the clock. But guess what? We do have control over what we do with our next moment, how we impact our world, how we impact the future, how we impact our youth, and what kind of legacy do we leave behind, and how do we get fulfillment out of our lives. It is all possible, and it can start right now in this moment. Sheila, I remember you asked something about on Facebook, what would I suggest that you could or should do better? Is do what's right for you. Do what's right for you, and use your gifts and all of your intellectual property. Use it to serve the world, and then you'll find your next level. It'll find you. Stop chasing. Attract. Listen to what's inside of you that's telling you what to do. Sometimes you have to tell your mind to be quiet because your brain can handle more than what your mind gives it.
Awesome. Very well said. I don't know about you, MSC Nation, but we miss Coach Rich. So we are thankful that he was able to come in and give us this motivational nugget. We needed to hear that. Discover your next level because it is not too late for you to do it. The 2.0 version of you is there, and more levels are there for you to experience. So, Coach Rich, we thank you for joining us on tonight. It was awesome. And please join us again on next Tuesday. We're going to be gathering together to learn more about some new radio personalities who are going to be starting for January 2024. And some of our current and existing radio personalities are going to be joining us next Tuesday. So, yes, please. Coach Rich is back in full force. So we're happy to have him back. And so I'm just going to leave it over to you to close us out on tonight. And we thank you. We love you. Put those hearts in the chat if you haven't already done so to show some love and appreciation for having Coach Rich back, and also sending out some hearts to Miss Evelyn, his mom. And so, Coach Rich, we want to have you close us out on tonight as only you can.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for covering for me. Thanks, Dad, Cat, Dave, and everybody else. Ronnie for moderating, and Bridget, and all the hard work you do in marketing for me. Music, and everybody else that's a part of the network. Miss Freeman, I love you, and thank you. And Veronica, I was going to speak about you, but I'm going to save it to next week. Listen, hey, Sherman is, I'm not sure if that's Sherman Henry, but that's my boy from the hood. He used to be one of those people on the wall. And we predicted, I used to have a Huffy bicycle, a Huffy 50, and Sherman, we and I would take turns riding on the handlebars, and we would ride through the projects, and we would dream that we will be very popular people, very successful people, and we kept that dream, and we knew we would get away from the wall. Sherman is now president of an organization, and he's also a professor at Florida International University, and he's doing so many wonderful things. So, brother, I appreciate you. I told you that we'll be here, and we're here. And so we're both writing books at the same time. So the point I'm trying to make is we're not at 1.0, right? So I want to leave you guys with this. We are all much better than what we believe. We're all more resilient than what we perceive. Life is a gift, and we're on borrowed time. And if you're at 1.0, there's so many versions of you to get to. As long as you have air in your body, you owe it to yourself to find out what gift were you sent here with, and what gift and legacy do you want to leave behind. Do not have people lying about you at your funeral, making up things to try to make you sound better. You are better. Give yourself the gift. Follow through. Pick it back up. You know who you are. You know your worth. There are two versions of you. There's two versions. There's the person you think you are and the person you truly are. Find out who you truly are. Stop living who you think you are. And on that note, I want to say, make sure you tune in to Dr. Marcia's show. Just click the link and click her name and go watch her show. It's going to be a great show. It's starting right now. On that note, it's been a ball, y'all, but the clock on the wall said it's all. Until the next time on the Rich Live Show, know that what, Lady L?
We love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Okay, see ya!
If you need the best entertainment in one place, music with smooth grooves, you have to tune in to MSC Network. And if you want the best place for the culture, the community, with good vibes, with good content for your soul, so tune in to the MSC Network, tune in to the MSC Network, the MSC Network, the MSC Network, tune in, the MSC Network, the MSC